Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the telecall, 7 Steps to Manifesting Your True Purpose. I am your host and guide tonight, Anodea Judith, and I am speaking to you from Novato, California, a hot, windy day up here on the hillside, and I am delighted to be bringing you this free call and this information about something I'm really excited about. This is a slideshow that I have been doing in my public talks for quite some time now, and especially since the Creating on Purpose book came out. And the visuals just sort of help you see what we're doing. I think it's a better way to learn. It hits both the right and left side of the brain when we have conversation and visuals together, and we can participate. So let's just all pretend we're in a wonderful, cozy little classroom together, and we can raise hands, we can see each other's faces, we can imagine we have people from all over the country and perhaps out of the country as well. I don't see the address of everybody, but we are all in this co-creation together. And co-creation is really what it's about. This is about how to empower people to take their deepest, highest aspirations, their connection to source, their life purpose, their highest visions, and guide them step by step into the manifestation of those visions on the earth plane. And I'll tell you why I am so excited about this material right now, why I'm so passionate about it actually, is that given the way the world is going at the moment with so many things changing in our paradigm, such a profound shift in human consciousness where just about everything in civilization needs to change if we're going to survive as a species and thrive into the future, that it is really calling on people to wake up and step up and take charge and really become contributors to the paradigm shift. And this requires that people learn how to manifest, that it's not about just going off to the corner or up to a mountaintop or off to a retreat and meditating, as important as that is for clearing our consciousness and dissolving blockages and coming to a higher state of consciousness. It's very important to do so. But the question is, what do we do with that consciousness once we have raised our consciousness? And many of us on the spiritual and psychological journey have spent, 20, 30, 40 years studying consciousness and raising our consciousness and studying the chakras and doing healing and coaching and trying to figure out what this world is all about. And now is the time that we have to do something with it, because if we don't put all hands on deck, then this world, I'm afraid, is going to have some pretty serious problems. So it is my passionate hope that we can awaken the manifestation abilities of people who work with this material. And so to begin with, this material is based on the chakra system. The chakra system is something that I have been studying for my whole adult life. For about 40 years, I've become passionately involved with since I first heard the word back in 1975 and felt this rush of energy go through my whole body, and I knew that I had found a very valuable key to something profound. And I really didn't know how profound it was. I just had the sense that, this is an important key. But it's really over the decades of studying it and writing about it and working with it and teaching people and working with it in therapy for people and coaching them that I have found how valuable this key is, how profound this map is. And I've seen this as a formula for wholeness, this map to human consciousness, that if we address our lives on each of the essential properties of the chakras, you could call it the elements, earth, water, fire, air, sound, and light. You could call it the states of consciousness, our survival consciousness, our emotional consciousness, our executive consciousness, our relationship consciousness, our creative, our intuitive, and our spiritual consciousness. If we address ourselves on each of those levels, we have a very good chance at becoming whole. This is like a map, or what Jung would call an archetype of wholeness. The yin-yang Tao is an archetype for wholeness. Well, the chakra system is another one. And in my first 20 years of teaching, I was teaching it kind of the classic way that you start with the first chakra and you climb upward on what I call the ladder for liberation, and you go to higher and higher states of consciousness, transcending and including whatever level is below. So we get our ground, and then from our ground we move into the watery emotions, and from that we rise up into our fire and our power, and we stand in our power to create relationship, and from there we learn to communicate and imagine and come to higher consciousness. And that is a viable method of working through the chakras. But after about 20 years of that, my students were saying, well, what's next? And I had to think about it, and I realized that what goes up must come down. What is next is the journey back down the chakras, which is actually a very, very different journey. And in addition to that, people were asking me over and over again how I managed to manifest so much in my life. I admit I'm a Sagittarian, and we're kind of known for shooting our arrow at a target and, you know, achieving the impossible or setting our goals and being able to follow through. But I had to think about it. Well, how do I do that? You know, I raised 4 kids, and I got a master's and a PhD, and I've written 6 books and made a movie and had a really great life. It's not like I've worked all the time. I've traveled and, you know, had a lot of fun as well. And I thought, well, how do I do it? And I realized in reflecting that for every project I have created and brought into manifestation, that it began as an idea. I visualized it. I talked about it. I brought it into my relationships. I used my will to get things done. I used my passion to move things along, and that I brought it into the completion and brought it all the way down to ground in my first chakra. And I saw that the downward current through the chakras is a map for manifestation. It is a step-by-step process that condenses the abstract energy of consciousness into denser and denser forms. So you take thought forms and you condense it into images, and you condense it into words, and you condense it into air and then fire and then water and then earth, or, you know, relationships and action and passion and completion. And as it gets denser, we bring in more particularity, we bring in more specificity, more exactness, we shave some things off, we condense things until we have a manifested form. And that all my manifestations follow this downward path for the chakras. So about 12 years ago, I started teaching workshops on this. And about 8 years ago, Lion Goodman started teaching with me, and he brought a whole bunch of material about beliefs and how to change and confront and understand our limiting beliefs. And together we wrote the book, Creating on Purpose, which was our manifestation process, and we used this process to create the book, and that came out in October. And hence, that brings you all of the background to this slideshow and this talk. So what I'm going to share with you is this map for manifestation. And you can use this map for anything that you want to manifest. And again, just looking at the chakras as, you know, energy centers in the body stacked up on each other vertically, the liberating current starts in the ground, and we get free of fixed forms, and we go to less material forms as we go up. And in the old Sanskrit texts about the chakras, the upward current was called mukti. Mukti is Sanskrit for freedom. Coming to, that's why I say we liberate. But equally important, this descending current, the old text had a word for it too. They called it bhukti, and bhukti actually means enjoyment. And in the old text, they actually talked about the chakras as condensing chambers that condense, you know, the energy of consciousness into a heavier form, and then condense that into a heavier form, as I just described. So if you have a thought and you think it over and over and over again repeatedly, it starts to create a little groove in reality. And then as you think it, of course, you're also imagining it. And if you imagine that all the time, well, that's the first thing you're going to talk about when you talk to somebody. And so it makes sense that as we densify these thought forms, we are actually starting to pull them into manifestation. Now, the thing is about coming downward through the chakras from a less dense plane to a more dense plane is that as we move into more density, we experience resistance. And this resistance is the tough part of manifestation. How many of you experience resistance when it's time to get something done, when it's time to clean your office, when it's time to, oh, heaven forbid, do your taxes? I hope we're all done with that by now. But, or when we want to create something, but we're resistant to making that phone call or to take that step or to go to the bank and ask for the loan or to do whatever we do. So part of manifestation is working through resistance. And you can think of that, if you imagine a meteor coming in from outer space. As it's traveling in outer space, it's in a vacuum. There's no resistance. But let's say that meteor is traveling toward Earth. As soon as it hits the atmosphere, it's going to experience some resistance. It's going to slow down the travel. In fact, meteors tend to burn up in the atmosphere even before they hit the Earth, often just because of that resistance. But let's say it's a really big meteor, and it doesn't burn up as it comes through the atmosphere. It just gets slowed down a little bit, and then it lands in the ocean. Now, the ocean surface is thicker or more dense than the atmosphere, so it's going to slow down even more. But it's not going to slow it down completely because it's a big, heavy meteor. So the meteor, actually it's a meteorite when it hits Earth, now goes through the ocean until it hits perhaps the ocean bottom, which is the Earth plane, which is solid, and it can't go any farther. So we can imagine these 7 levels like a thought coming down, experiencing a little resistance as it comes to each new layer of density. And that could be, you mean I got to talk about this to people? You mean I've got to find somebody to work with? You mean I got to get up at 6 in the morning and go to the gym if I want to lose weight? You mean I got to do this or that? There's resistance, and we have to have a way to get through that and to understand that resistance occurs at each chakra. So let's talk about this pattern and how it goes from the top down. So beginning at the crown chakra, beginning at the top, beginning in the infinite, where anything is possible. You know, we talk about the crown chakra as associated with cosmic consciousness, with unlimited, completely non-material consciousness. There's no space and there's no time. And the fact is, you can think of anything. You can think about flying in a spaceship to a distant galaxy. You can think about, sprouting wings. You can think about doing somersaults down the hill. You can think about taking $1 million out of the bank. You can think about anything you want because in the thought plane, there are no limitations. Now, when we take some of those ideas, like, sprouting wings and flying across the land, well, when we get into reality, we have some limitations that probably aren't going to allow that to happen, and that we don't have the spacecraft yet to fly to a different galaxy. And so there are limitations in the phenomenal world, but not in the thought world. So we begin in a place where anything is possible. In this infinite universe, full of billions of stars that are billions of galaxies, and we are one tiny speck on a very small planet in a small star in the distant arm of even our own galaxy. When you think about the incredible expanse of the cosmos, you know we are living in an infinite universe. And that means we can't possibly know, and seventh chakra is connected with knowing, we can't possibly know everything about that universe. It's just too vast. In fact, we can basically know that we don't know everything. We only know a small sliver. But if anything is possible, then that means also that miracles are possible. And miracles are something that I'm really into these days. And every time I meditate and dream, and what just keeps coming through me is we can make a miracle on this planet. We can wake up and we can ground down into our chakras and we can find our core and we can work together, and we can speak up, and we can take action, and we can change this world and make a miracle on this planet. And I think in many ways it's going to take a miracle. And in that, that just because it's going to require a miracle, even that says, well, it's possible. And I know miracles are possible because I see them every day. Just the fact that we're here talking on this incredible technology, seeing slides that I'm showing on my computer in California, and you're watching it in Albany, New York, or Palo Alto, or Weymouth, Mass., or Pittsburgh, or Crestone, Colorado. I'm just reading off some of the places here. That's a miracle. But I also know that we create them all the time. And every time I give a talk, I ask people to share a miracle, and somebody's got some healing miracle that they've experienced. I'm going to have to share one of my kind of ordinary miracles. I was at the Book Exchange, big, huge BEA conference. It's the annual conference for book publishers and all that. It's a huge, huge conference. This was a few years ago. And so it was very late, and I was staying about an hour out of Washington, D.C., where it was being held, at a friend's apartment. They'd gone away for the weekend, and they'd given me their apartment to stay in because there were no hotel rooms left in the city. And I was riding the subway home, and it was about 10 o'clock at night. I was just exhausted. I'd been there since 6 in the morning, and I fell asleep on the subway, and I jerked awake when it came to my stop, and I went, oh, that's my stop, and I grabbed my stuff, and I got off, and just as the door was closing, I realized I didn't have my purse. And someone had apparently taken it while I was asleep. And here I was, 10 o'clock at night, long way from home, staying at my friend's apartment. My keys to that apartment were in the purse. All my money, my ID, I had to get on a plane at 7 o'clock the next morning. I wouldn't be able to get on a plane without the ID. And I was stuck. I didn't even have any money to get out of the turnstile because all my money was in my wallet. And so I at first panicked, and I went through the usual things. So I tried to, find somebody that, was there a police officer around, or talk to an attendant, and, nothing was working. And then I went, wait a minute. I teach that miracles are possible. Okay, I need a miracle right now. Only a miracle is going to get me out of this situation, because I was having these negative fantasies of spending the night in the police station trying to find an ID that I could use to get on the plane and all that. And so I sat down and I did my prayers for a miracle, that I didn't know how I was going to get out of this situation by 7 o'clock the next morning. But I knew that there would be some way that I could. And so I did my meditation, I did my prayer, I said thank you, and I just affirmed that it was possible. And I saw myself on the plane, I imagined myself on the plane, going to my next event, which was the very next day, and I saw myself getting into my friend's apartment with the keys. I just visualized all that. And as soon as I came out of my meditation, 3 people came through the turnstile and bumped into me. Like, they just practically knocked me over. And they were busy talking on their cell phones, and they didn't even notice that I was standing there. And I went, bingo, cell phone. I have a cell phone in my purse. And it was on. And so I said to them, can I borrow your cell phone? I need to call myself and see if somebody dumped my purse in a garbage can somewhere, or, often they just take the money and then they leave it behind, and maybe I could find out where it is and get back. This was actually before the days when they had this tracking system for cell phones. And it took a few calls, and finally somebody answered, and they were on the train, and indeed my purse was there, and the money was gone, but the wallet and my ID and everything was still there. The keys were there, and they were going to a station on the other end, unfortunately, but they would leave the purse there, and I managed to get it. I managed to get into my apartment by 2 that morning and be on the plane at 7 o'clock the next day. So my point about this is not that something mysterious happened, like some angel suddenly dropped my purse in my lap. Nothing really out of the ordinary happened, except that I affirmed that a miracle was possible, and then it was just the people bumping into me with a cell phone making me think of that, and the rest just followed. But we have to believe that that's possible first. So that's where we start. That miracles are possible, and they're simply a technology that we haven't learned yet or we haven't thought of yet. And this downward current through the chakras can produce miracles. So it is a technology for that. Okay, so in beginning in the crown chakra, the first tip is to begin in emptiness. When I had this experience on the subway in the suburbs of D.C., my first thoughts were panic, and my mind was racing to think of everything I could think of as to how to get out of the situation, and nothing logical. When I sat down to do my prayer, I had to empty my mind completely of all those preconceived notions about how this was going to happen. And it was only in doing that that I could allow something else to enter. So the seventh chakra represents meditation. It represents our connection to the beyond, to the divine. It represents thought as an element. It represents consciousness itself in its abstract form. And that consciousness has the ability to create. In fact, everything that exists began as an idea in someone's consciousness. The clothes you're wearing, someone thought of making them. The building you're in right now, the device that you're listening to this through, whether it's a computer or a telephone, this began as somebody's idea. Somebody thought of how to make this. Somebody thought of what it could be. Somebody thought of a computer. Somebody thought of a telephone. Somebody thought of how to build the building or make the car that got you to where you are. So everything begins in consciousness. And I believe that the natural world is a phenomenon of divine consciousness, and the human-made world is a phenomenon of our human consciousness, which is an aspect of the divine. So consciousness creates. That's our first manifestation principle. And in that, we have to open ourselves, beginning in emptiness, to reception. We have to be able to receive from the divine, from the cosmos, from that unlimited place, an idea. Now, the word idea starts with the I, which is the vertical column through the center of the chakras, the capital letter I that exists in the middle of each one of us, and DEA, which is the Latin for the feminine form of the divine. Now, if we take masculine and feminine, the masculine provides the pattern in conception, and the feminine provides a bit of the pattern, too, in the egg. We're talking about the sperm and the egg coming together in conception. But then the feminine, the mother, puts the flesh onto that pattern. When she conceives a child, first comes the DNA, and then the cellular tissue forms itself according to that DNA. So you could say the DNA is the thought structure that the mother then puts the flesh on the bone. So the manifestation process is actually moving downward from the masculine into the feminine, seeing the earth as more the feminine pole of creation. So to conceive, we have to open ourselves to receive. And when we do, when we get an idea, which is the feminine form of the divine coming into the individual I, then we say, oh, I think of those ideas like arrows that I put in a quiver on my back. Oh, that's a good idea. I might be talking to somebody or see something in a store or think of something or wake up in the morning from a dream, and I think, oh, that's a good idea. I might do that sometime. Oh, that's a good idea. And we get plenty of these ideas all day long, and not all of them do we act on. But every once in a while I'll say, you know that idea I had? I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to write that book. I'm going to create that business. I'm going to build that house. I'm going to move to that place. I'm going to start that practice. Some idea that you want to actually manifest. Then it's like pulling the arrow out of your quiver, hooking it up into your bow, and shooting it. And when you shoot it towards a target. That is your intention. If I say I have an intention, then I am actually shaping my reality to fulfill that intention. And we do this all the time in that we say, oh, I have an intention to be at my desk at work tomorrow by 8:30 a.m., and you know what time you have to set your alarm, and you know how long you get to eat breakfast, and if you overslept, you don't get to eat breakfast as quickly, or you might not get your shower, or, something, because we change our reality according to, I have to be there then. I have to have my rent by the first of the month. I have to pay my bills by the time they're due. I have to put gas in my car before it runs out. So we're constantly setting these intentions and actually manifesting them. This is a natural process. What we want to do is to be able to harvest that process for something big that we want to manifest, a big project, a big, starting a business, buying a farm, whatever your dream is, setting up a retreat center. These are big projects, so we have a lot of pieces to move in. So as we set our intention and we aim it towards the target, and that'll be 6th chakra where we see the target, what we experience is the beliefs that we have in our crown chakra. And those beliefs are like crosswind. If I'm shooting an arrow 200 feet to a target and there's a big crosswind, my arrow probably isn't going to hit the target. But if my beliefs are completely aligned and the wind is blowing in my direction, in the direction I want it to go, then my beliefs are aligned with my intention, and they are aligned and aiming right for the target. Trouble is, we often have a lot of beliefs that are not aligned. So one of the things we do in 7th chakra is we look at beliefs. Now, that's a longer process. We're just going to learn the steps tonight. But this is one of the things that Lion Goodman brought into this work, some really dynamite work with how to change your beliefs, how to recognize limiting beliefs like, oh, it's too hard, or I don't have what it takes, or I'm too old, or I'm too fat, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough skill, or I'm not smart enough. All those kind of beliefs that we all have some version of get in the way of our ability to manifest. So we got to clear them out. So we will have a bonus call in this course on with Lion Goodman about how to delete the beliefs that no longer serve you. So consciousness creates, we receive, we conceive, we believe, and we intend. Okay, so this is how this works. Here we are in our reality. We've got this little guy in the box with hands over his head, and then we have a dream, something we want to manifest. And what we do is we stretch, imagine a rubber band stretching from our reality to our dream. Okay, my dream might be that I have a certain amount of money in the bank by December 1st. My dream might be that I have a full practice with clients by a certain date. My dream might be that I get my body in shape and I lose 20 or 30 pounds. My dream might be, anything that we have a dream of. And often we'll say, oh, but let's say a dream is to go back to school and to get a PhD, for example. That was one of my dreams at one time, and I did it. But you could say, oh, but I'm too busy. That takes so much time. And then that rubber band, which rubber bands want to resolve, it'll shrink. And I'm not smart enough to get a PhD. Oh, that's only for brainy people. And then it shrinks, the rubber band shrinks a little more because we're holding it in our reality. And, it's really expensive to get a PhD, and I don't have enough money. And, the whole thing is way too complicated. And then the dream shrinks, and what we're left with is the same reality we started with because we have that rubber band anchored in our reality. But now imagine we do it a little differently. So now we expand our reality to fit the dream. And we say, well, it may be complicated, but I could take it one step at a time. And then our reality expands a little. And, they have a lot of student loans, and there's ways I could borrow the money. There's scholarships. Our dream just expanded some more. I can learn how. I might be a little weak in the math, but I could get some tutoring. So I could learn how to do it. And I could find the time. If I gave up doing this and that, I could find the time to do it. And next thing you know, our reality has shifted. The dream has expanded, and there we are. We have our dream instead of the current reality. So tip number 2 in manifestation is never let your reality define your reality. And it's an old trick that everybody does. Oh, well, nobody's done it in my family, and I could never do that, and I tried that once, and it was too hard, and I failed, and relationships never work out, and everything's always costs more than you think, and all of these excuses that we have for not manifesting something. And what we're doing is we are affirming our current reality and letting that define what reality we can have. So never let your current reality define the reality that you could create. Okay, now we go to chakra 6. Vision vitalizes. That's our manifestation principle. So after we create with consciousness, we create our intention, now we align that intention with our life purpose, with our dreams. We create a vision, and we look at the obstacles. So in creating on purpose, we are not only doing our creation on purpose. You know, a lot of people say, oh, you create your own reality, and then you go, yeah, but why would I have ever created this mess? Well, the idea is if we do create a reality, let's do it on purpose. Let's create the things we really want and not create these things that, well, I didn't create that reality on purpose. Why would I create illness on purpose? Why would I create poverty on purpose? Why would I create heartbreak on purpose? Well, we wouldn't. So that just happens when we're not creating on purpose what we really do want. So this is about becoming purposeful in our creation and aligning with our life purpose. And then looking at our dreams. And a dream is how you would like life to be. In a moment, I'll show you another slide of dreaming in different areas. But it's, in fact, how you would love life to be. And that can be in, you know, how you would love your body to be, how you would love your job to be, how you would love your relationship to be, how you would love your home to be, how would you would love your community to be, your education. So we have dreams in these different areas. And out of a dream, we create a vision, which is a little different than life purpose, a little different than dreams. A vision is the vehicle that can take you to your dream. So if somebody's life purpose is to make people laugh, and their dream is to just, you know, be in a place where they can be an entertainer and make people laugh, the vision could be having a comedy show. The vision could be being a clown for children's parties. The vision could be being a comedy writer for a show. There's a lot of different ways the vision could do it. And, of course, as soon as we do that, we see all the obstacles. And we have to be able to pierce through with our sight all the way to the target and, like a laser, pierce through all those obstacles and find ways to deal with removing the obstacles. But we have to see them. So this isn't that kind of airy-fairy, oh, just think of it and it'll happen. This is just think of it and you will see the obstacles that you have to deal with in order to get there. So this is what we do in 6th chakra. And in this, we're also looking at being, doing, and having. So most people think if I only had enough money, then I could do the things I wanted and then I would be happy. Or if I could only sing like an opera singer, then I would have a great career, and then I would be happy. And they start with doing or having in order to be. But in this work, we teach people to be first. In fact, if you start with what do you have to be in order to do and have what you want, then you're starting in the right direction. You're starting in the upper chakra state of being and saying, well, to write a book, I have to be focused. To start a business, I have to be organized. To have a relationship, I have to be loving. To, start a retreat center, I have to be knowledgeable about, who's on the workshop scene. So what do you have to be? Start with that first. And from there, we create our dream areas. And you might take a moment to write these down. These are 12 different areas in which we each have dreams. What is your financial dream? How much money do you want to have to retire? What is your career and work dream? in your career, what do you want to do? What is your body and health dream? Do you have a dream for learning or teaching? Do you have a dream of going back to school or studying a language or learning to paint? Do you have a vacation dream? When I did this exercise, I realized that I had fulfilled a lot of my dreams in most of these areas, but I had not even thought about a vacation dream. Like, what's my dream vacation? I was so work-oriented, and I actually hadn't had a vacation in 5 years. So when I finally decided what I wanted was a trip to India, I'd always wanted to go. Within just a few months, I got an invitation, expenses paid, to go to India and teach a workshop. I got paid enough for the workshop that I could travel there for a month, and it was naming it that brought it into existence. So you might find in some of these areas, you never thought about what your community and society dream is, or what your service and contribution to the world dream is, or your spiritual fulfillment dream is. Maybe you've always longed to go off to a silent meditation or a yoga retreat, and you never let yourself have that. So it's good to really let yourself dream big and how you would love life to be in each of these exercises, and that's part of the sixth chakra. Okay. Tip number 4 comes from Albert Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. It is more important that we are able to imagine what we want than the fact that we know how to get it. For instance, when I lost my purse on the subway, I imagined getting on that plane the next morning. I imagined having the keys to my friend's apartment in my hands. I didn't know how that was going to come to pass. I didn't know how I was going to find it at that hour of night, but I used my imagination, and the imagination can then bring you the knowledge. It doesn't mean that knowledge is not important, but it is important, but the imagination comes first. So we have to be able to imagine something in the sixth chakra and keep imagining it, because seeing it is actually a creative process. So from here, we go down a chakra into another layer of density. Conversation catalyzes. We go down at the throat chakra, which is about communication and sound. So here we may have some resistance. Well, what if I tell somebody my dream and they make fun of it, or they say, oh, you'll never do that? And what if they criticize, or what if they ask me questions that I can't answer? And so we may have a little resistance that we have to break through that comes from those inner voices of doubt. So in this chakra, what we do is we communicate about our dream, and in communicating, we actually get feedback from other people that helps refine the dream. And from that feedback and refinement, we set goals. And this is all part of the process of working in the fifth chakra. So, let's say you want to build a house. It's a great metaphor for this manifestation process. You've been thinking about it, and you've been looking at houses and architectural magazines, and you've imagined the kind of house you want to build. You've thought about it a million times, and now you have to go to an architect and tell them what you want, because you don't know how to design it. You just know what you want. And so you have to tell the architect your vision and make the architect understand. And sometimes, what we see in our head is kind of hard to express. Well, it's got to be full of light, and it's got to be, lots of windows. And the architect's going to say, well, how many windows? And how many square feet? And how many bedrooms? And what size kitchen do you want? And, and then they're going to say, well, you can't have that many square feet for your budget. And you may find out, I got to cut this down a little bit. But I do know a good building material that's just come on that's a little cheaper to use for counters than this, and that might save you some money, and then you could have a bigger kitchen. So you get this refinement that comes back, and out of that you get sort of an agreement. Okay, this is what we're going to do, and then you set goals. Okay, we're going to have the plans designed by a certain date, and we're going to set the foundation on a certain date, and of course we have to find a builder and a contractor and get our plans approved at the county. And so we have goals for all those projects that we see once we have refined our project. And that's all part of the fifth chakra. And our tip here is, for fifth chakra, is talk is cheap, so do lots of it. We say that the quickest way to manifest your dream is to talk about it to everybody, because you never know who may have a missing piece for you. Oh, I know the perfect graphic designer for your project, or I know the perfect agent, or I know that somebody that's also looking to do a retreat center, or I know the perfect office for you to set up your practice. You never know who's going to have a piece. So talking is like casting seeds. Not all of them will sprout, but some of them will, and the more seeds you cast, the higher your percentage. So, of course, as we descend into the fifth chakra and talk, we're talking to someone. We're talking to a person, most likely, or someone that's going to read something we wrote. That's a person also. You know, it's not going to, we can talk to our dog and our cat if we want, but they're not actually going to help us manifest. They're not going to give us the kind of feedback we need. So as soon as we're communicating, we're actually in relationship. And here we come down to the fourth chakra principle, love enlivens. Sometimes I say love launches. That everything that is created comes into being through the realm of relationships. I could not do what I'm doing if it weren't for my trusty assistants, Shannon Dean Malone and Gianna Parada, who are on this call right now, you know, taking care of nuts and bolts and helping me. I couldn't manifest anything as big as what I'm doing if I were doing it all by myself. I couldn't publish a book all by myself. It needs an editor and a printer and a designer to design the cover and a publicist. So none of the things that we create, we didn't even come into this world except by relationship. Even if it was a parent's one-night stand, we came into this world through relationships. So everything is a co-creation. And in here we look at what relationships do we need to manifest our dream. Do you need a graphic designer? Do you need an investor? Do you need clients or customers? Do you need students? Do you need readers? Do you need an audience? You know, what do you need? Do you need coworkers? Do you need employees? Do you need a boss, a mentor, a guide, a coach? You know, for everything we have, there's many relationships, and it's really good to make a list of them, because by naming them, you start to bring them into being, even if you don't know who that might be. When I was working on my DVD, The Illuminated Chakras, I decided, after it won a couple of awards, I'm going to take this to Europe and put it in other languages. And, of course, I didn't know how to do that, and I went online looking at translators, and they were very expensive, and there were lots of them, and I didn't know who was good and didn't know what to do. So I just kind of chewed my nails on it a little bit. And about a week later, I went to a party, and the first person I met at the party was this woman, and, you know, like you do at parties, hi, what's your name, what do you do? She said, I do voiceovers in other languages for movie projects and guided meditations. And I went, wow. And it turned out she had two of the languages I wanted. Her best friend, which is a colleague of hers, did a third language. And the fourth one was somebody I knew. And within a week, and it was at half the cost I'd found on the Internet. So, you know, was it just coincidence that I met her, or did it happen after I had named, I need a translator who does voiceover in other languages? So by naming things, we bring them into existence. So we name our relationships. This day and age, we create through networks, and everything happens through a network of relationships, or happens on the web, you know, that networks will spread your word. Networks will say, she does a really good session. Yes, you ought to go get some therapy from her, or massage from her, or counseling from her, or whatever. It happens through networks. And then finally, in the fourth chakra, is service. I believe that whatever serves the greater good puts the wind in your sails. And the element of the fourth chakra is air. So we want lots of air. And if the wind is in our sails, our work is so much easier. If we are just manifesting something for only our own selfish benefit, then I think it's not like we can't do that. Certainly you can. But if it doesn't have a greater purpose, you don't get quite as much assistance from the universe. So it's always good to say, how does my dream serve others? And as I've been teaching this for the last dozen or so years, I have found that every dream that somebody's really passionate about, at its root, they're passionate because they see it helping other people, they see it making the world a little better, a little brighter, they see some benefit beside themselves, and that's what gets them really excited. That's what they love about their dream. So when we bring these elements in, it becomes even more powerful. So now we're halfway through the chakra system. We're now down to the power chakra. Power produces is our manifestation theme here. This is the third chakra in the solar plexus. Its element is fire. It is our energy, our vitality, our get up and go. And here in this chakra, it is all about what do we have to do. And for every dream, what I'm teaching here is not just like the secret, all you have to do is think about it and it happens. It says, yes, you have to think about it and set your intention and imagine it and talk about it and find the right relationships. But in the creation of every dream, there's stuff you actually have to do. To write a book, I have to sit here at my computer and do research and type and rewrite and spend hours here. For other people, they've got to get up in the morning and commute. You got to make cold calls. You got to hammer nails into a board. You've got to do things. And we often have a lot of resistance at this chakra. And doing can get overwhelming when we think about a big dream. Oh, my God, I have to do so much. I don't even know where to start. And so where do you start? You plan. You make a plan for all the things that you have to do, and then you prioritize what you have to do. Then you get your energy going through some good third chakra exercises so that you've got some energy to work with, and you handle the tasks that you have to do. Sounds simple, but really it's about getting your energy bigger than your obstacles so that your energy goes right to what you have to do, and you handle things really only one at a time, and it makes it very manageable. So we have steps for helping the planning process and helping the prioritizing process and helping move your will into action and overcoming your obstacles and your distractions and your limitations and doubts and fears. But it's really important to make a plan, because without a plan, it won't withstand. If I say to you, hey, let's have lunch sometime, how many people have you said that to and it never happens? But if I say, let's have lunch, I've got Wednesday open at 12:30, I can meet you at Joe's Diner. And now we have a plan, and you can say yes or no, and you can say, well, I can't make it at 12:30, I can make it at 1 o'clock, and I say, okay, fine. We have a plan, and then it happens. So part of the plan is putting something on a calendar, getting very specific about what you have to do, because as we come down in the chakras, we have to get a little more specific at each step. Okay, so now we've come down through 5 chakras. There's only 2 left. And by the time we've come this far down into manifestation, we've actually taken some action. We have the relationships. We've talked about it. We've honed how we talk about it. It starts to move on its own. We start to move into the river of passion, and the element of the second chakra is water. Water wants to flow, and as water comes down from the heavens, it hits little rocks, and it falls off the rocks, and it goes in little rivulets into streams, and then those streams run together into brooks, and then the brooks run together into a river, and then the rivers run together and finally come to the sea. So as we keep moving downward, this water starts to come together. It comes more and more coagulation, more and more, like I say, coming together of our manifestation to the point where it starts to have its own gravity, and it is flowing downward, and it gets its own momentum. And this is when it gets really fun. For me, it's when the writing is going well. Or for someone opening a practice, it's when they have a few people that had a really good experience on their massage table. For someone else, it's when they get their first customers, or they get an audience for their play and they get good reviews. And it's like you go, oh, it's starting to happen. Another thing I love is gardening, and so I'll put some seeds in the ground, and then maybe 2 or 3 weeks later I go out and I go, oh my goodness, look at, there's a little sprout there, it's coming up, it's happening. Or I look at my plants and I see a bud, and then the next day I see a blossom, and I go, oh, it's happening, I'm going to have zucchini soon. So there's a place we get really excited and passionate when we get to that river, and this is the time to keep on doing what we're doing. This is the time to use that passion to attract what we need, to enjoy what we're doing, and to make the whole process fun. Because you want to make it fun until it's done. It's going to get done easier if we can enjoy the process and not get too serious about it, if we can laugh, if we can have pleasure. And in fact, if we need to attract other people to our dream, whether it's investors or clients or customers or students or readers or an audience or any of the people we might need to attract, they're going to be attracted to something that brings them pleasure and fun and beauty and something, in the senses. It's like I wouldn't say, let's go out to dinner. I know this place that has terrible food and a really ugly atmosphere. You wouldn't want to go. Say, let's go out to dinner. I know this restaurant's got fantastic food and a really beautiful decor, and the prices aren't bad. So, or let's go see this movie. It's really a wonderful movie. It'll make you laugh and feel good all over. So if we think we're going to have an experience of pleasure, we're attracted to something. And this is my definition of the law of attraction. What is considered the law of attraction in the world is more the principle consciousness creates, that what we think of, we start to create. But if we want to attract people, we need to make it fun. Okay, so rivers always flow downward with gravity. And as we flow down, we get to the first chakra. Chakra 1, the principle here is matter matters. The element of chakra 1 is earth. It is the earth plane. It's solid. Once you step on the earth plane, you walk across it. You don't penetrate it. It supports you. Roots go down into the earth. So this is the final step in creating manifestation, that you want to have your dream come into a physical form. For me, writing a book, it's like finally getting the book back from the printer and holding it in my hand, and here I have this tangible thing that represents, several years of work. Or, you bring vegetables to your table that you grew in the garden. You've got a fulfilled manifestation of all your efforts. Or you've got a running business, or you've bought your home, or you're walking down the aisle with your beloved, or you have the experience you want to have. You've got something. This is where we've moved from being to doing to having. And what it takes to do that is a commitment to your plan, a commitment to all these steps and to fulfill them by a certain date, and making that commitment very specific. We need to be willing to fulfill that commitment. We need to be able to complete that fulfillment. And by that, it's like when I write a book, I make a commitment to the publisher, I sign a contract, and I say, okay, I will turn this book in by a certain date. That's my commitment. Then I have to sit there and make sure I fulfill that commitment and get it done by that date. And I have to send it to them in its complete form. I can't say, oh, well, here it is, but I never did chapter 3. It's not acceptable. Or I built the whole house, but I left out the south wall. No, everything has to be completed. And if you commit and fulfill and complete, then you will have your finished product. And I guarantee that this works if you do each step on the process in this, broken down step-by-step way, and you actually fulfill and complete each one, it will work to bring you your manifestation. I've seen it happen over the 12 years I've been teaching this with people having amazing manifestations, things they didn't know were possible, meeting the love of their life, getting their body in shape, buying a house when they didn't have a down payment, just amazing things that they have created, sometimes even in less time than they thought, by using these principles. And after you have it, there is one last very important, tip number 9, complete each piece and then release. And one last step that's very important, celebrate. You know, when you get something done, open the champagne, go out to dinner, you know, take a day off, pat yourself on the back and say, you did it. Because this tells your subconscious that it's done good. It tells your little kid inside that you've done good. And that means that little kid's going to be happier to do it again. And it's going to have a little time to enjoy. Because remember, in the Sanskrit, the downward current that I'm calling the current of manifestation was called bhukti, or enjoyment. And that we manifest things for the purpose of enjoying this incredible world we've been given. So this is an outline of the steps, and I want to take a few minutes to see. I've been talking kind of nonstop. I just wanted to get the whole pattern out and to see if anybody has any questions about anything that I've said, if they want any clarification on.
Yes. And I do see a couple of questions that came in while you were talking.
Okay.
We have, let's see, can you explain the connection with Muladhara and the immune system? I have constant health issues. What can that have to do with being grounded or not?
Okay. With Muladhara, which is the earth plane, and it's the body, and so part of the Muladhara chakra, which is related to our survival instincts and the ability to survive, means being healthy and keeping our body going. So it is related to that in the sense of the more embodied we are, and embodiment is a challenge in this world, the more immediately we feel what's going on in our body, and the more quickly we take care of it. And I speak as somebody that's had health challenges in my life too, and my lesson continually has been, that was where I didn't pay attention to my body. I was tired and I didn't pay attention to that. I was hungry and I didn't pay attention, or I knew I shouldn't eat that and I ate it anyway. And that if we're really feeling our body, then we are more in harmony with the body. So it is about being grounded, but more it's about being embodied. And then the immune system itself is actually said to be more related to the heart chakra, because the T cells are manufactured by the gland, the thymus gland, that is related to the heart chakra. So a lot of the immune system is about self-love and knowing this from that, knowing what is me and what is not me, letting the immune system be able to fight off something that is foreign and in protection of something that is intrinsically the self. So I hope that gives you a little bit to go on chakra-wise.
And there was another quick question asking, which kind of goes in the same vein, the most effective or quickest way to ground.
The most effective and quickest way to ground is to stand on your own 2 feet, bend your knees a little bit, inhale and bend your knees even more, exhale and push through the core of your legs into the earth as if you were pushing roots downward into the ground out of your feet. And do that again and again. Inhale as you bend, exhale as you push. If you're sitting in a chair, get in the habit of uncrossing your legs, putting both feet on the ground, and pressing your feet downward into the ground. So as you learn to press down through your legs, you're actually pushing your energetic roots into the ground.
Okay, a couple more just popped up. How do I resolve an issue when chakra 3, power and control, clashes with someone else?
You find a way to honor both wills and see if you can find a solution that actually transcends and includes both concerns. And actually, you have to get out of the power struggle. So let's say person A wants this and person B wants that. You say, okay, so what's important to you in what you want? And here's what's important to me in what I want. And let go of the actual form and say, well, it's important that I have some time off, or it's important that I talk to so-and-so, or it's important that I, whatever it is. If you can understand the importance behind what is somebody's will and speak to that, you may be able to find a solution that speaks to the importance both of you have.
And finally, how can we recognize what is our true life purpose?
Okay. Well, part of it is recognition, part of it is choosing, and we have a process we do in the call, in the 7-week class. It takes too long to do it on this call with all of the chakras, but where we look at the patterns that we've had through our life. What have you always found yourself doing that you just can't help but do, that you're naturally good at, that you do over and over again? It could be being a good listener or making people laugh or creating beauty. And so we have a process, a deep meditation where we look at our whole life and we go to the past and we go to the future and we ask certain questions, and it's called divining your life purpose. And then you take all those clues and you put them together and you actually choose what you feel your life purpose is. But life purpose is very general. Vision is more specific. Life purpose is not the same as marching orders. So some people think, I need, marching orders, which means I have to go to India and set up an orphanage in the south tip of India. Those are marching orders. That's not necessarily a life purpose. A life purpose might be to work with children. But there's a lot on that in the 6 chakra class in this 7-week series. What I'm outlining here is a 7-step process for manifestation, and it's written about in the book Creating on Purpose that, as I say, came out in October. And yet, the book tells you how to do it, but a lot of people like to have somebody to work with as they go down. In fact, a group that keeps you on track. So what we're offering here, and I've done this a few times in the past, so I'm getting it down, is a 7-week teleseries for looking at each of these steps one at a time, so that we spend a whole week in the crown chakra, clearing things out, looking at our beliefs, setting our intentions, clearing out our counter intentions. We spend a week looking at our life purpose and our vision and honing our vision and looking at the obstacles, and we have a lot of different meditations that we do in that one. We spend a week in the 5th chakra, Conversation Catalyzes, looking at how do we communicate what we're doing, and we practice communicating with each other. How do we root out those negative voices? We come down to the 4th chakra and we look at relationships, the 3rd chakra, and make a plan, and we use 3rd chakra exercises to get our energy bigger than our obstacles. We look at how to make it fun in the 2nd chakra and how to bring it all the way down to manifestation in the 1st chakra. And you'll get step-by-step guidance on this week by week that you can listen to anytime. I also send out emails that go with this that are, emails of exercises to keep you on track, emails of information about the chakras, and that will also go with what you get. So does anybody have any more questions about the chakras or about the class?
There was a question that came in. It says, which chakra helps with decision-making, deciding which dream or vision to pursue? I feel like I have so many balls in the air right now, and I don't know how to choose.
That's a very common problem in manifestation, too many things. Because the mind can see anything. And I have another expression in there that you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So we do have to decide, and this is really something that happens really up at the 7th and 6th chakras, up there where all things are possible in the unmanifest realm. To come down into the possible means we have to limit. And in fact, we do have to learn to limit to manifest. So it's the 6th and 7th chakra, but when you really get clarity about your intention and you get aligned with your life purpose, it becomes a lot easier to decide. The hard thing about deciding is the word side means to kill, like genocide or suicide or pesticide. So to decide, and D means to cut. It means we have to cut away something and then we don't have that. And there can be a lot of fear of missing out. Oh, if I let go of that, then what's going to happen? So we need to find our fulfillment in our dream and our vision that's going to take us to that dream. Then it's easier to decide what we need to do.
Beautiful. We don't have any more questions, but we do have a couple of miracles if we want to share those really quick.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good note. Done.
Yeah, good thing to end on. Linnea in Ashland says, I was relieved of a $5,000 hospital bill about a year ago. Congratulations.
Wow.
I know. It'd be amazing.
That's amazing.
Margaret in Glendale says she was hit by a car in a crosswalk. Her head hit the street. She went unconscious for a bit. When she came to, she couldn't see because there was so much blood running down her face. Surrounded by people, one was a nurse, one was a surgeon, one with a card of a lawyer, and everyone called the ambulance and police, and nobody stole anything, and she lived.
Oh, my God, that's amazing that everybody that was necessary was there on site at the time.
That's amazing. It's wonderful. And then finally.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I said, and finally, from Buenos Aires, we have someone who said it was a miracle today to be able to listen to you because they are in bed with a lumbar hernia, unfortunately. And they are dreaming of the days after studying with you at Kripalu last year that they can also teach people about the wonderful chakra system.
Oh, how wonderful. Well, I hope your hernia gets better, and that can be a dream that you hold. Begin imagining it being better. Talk about it being better, and imagine yourself, doing whatever you can do with your body that you'd like to do, whether it's yoga or whatever, and just take the actions one step at a time, and you can heal this.
Absolutely.
Well, excellent. So we have some miracles. Well, let's just close our eyes for a closing meditation then. And find your way to your alignment. Uncross your legs so both feet are touching the floor. Unless you're sitting on the floor cross-legged, that's okay. But come to an erect spine. And lift your crown up. And extend your roots down. And find that sacred space that runs between them. A column of energy that runs through your very core. The I that lives inside you, the divine within. And as you breathe, imagine that core expanding and dissolving blockages. And as you exhale, and there's a natural contraction in the exhale, imagine that in that contraction, you're actually hugging your core. You're hugging into your core. And it's like you're hugging something precious. And you can use your third eye imagination to see that core as a column of light. And when you hug it, it gets brighter, the way we brighten up when somebody gives us a hug. And when you expand it, it gets softer. And from that core comes your truth, and you see yourself speaking your truth easily and effortlessly, finding your way into beautiful, intimate relationships. And we have a course coming up on that, too, soon. You find yourself doing what you need to do easily and effortlessly, without resistance. In the third chakra. In the second chakra, you allow yourself to feel and to have fun and to have pleasure and to laugh and to make things a little easier. And finally, in the first chakra, all the way down to your roots that are pointed down into the ground, you look in your lap, and there you are, holding a finished, completed version of your dream. We're all pushing down into this Mother Earth, this sacred ground together. And with the help of the heavens, with the help of Spirit, with the help of guidance, guidance has a destiny for all of us in this great awakening that we're going through on the planet. As we allow guidance to come in, it will help us open each chakra so that we can manifest through them. and manifest our true purpose in this great awakening that we are privileged to be a part of. So take a breath in and just allow that energy to descend through your chakras all the way down into the earth. And then open your eyes and look around at what you have already manifested in your life. Whatever is there, whatever you're seeing out your window or on your walls or in another person, you have manifested that. So can pat yourself on the back for being a master manifester and see if you want to learn how to really do it. So for those who have a dream they want to bring into manifestation, I hope to see you. And for now, chakra blessings, and I hope your chakras bring you the most beautiful manifestation of your dreams possible. Thank you very much, and good night.
Hi, I am Anodea Judith, and I want to ask you, what do you want to manifest in 2014? And not only what, but do you know how? Do you get lost in the process of figuring out how to take your visions all the way into reality? Do you get lost in which one of my visions do I want to take into reality? Do you get lost in trying to be clear about what your life purpose is and how to align with spirit to support that work in the world? Creating on Purpose is a workshop that takes you on a step-by-step process from dream to reality. We begin in the highest state of consciousness, starting with Chakra 7. We empty out, we conceive, we have an idea, we bring that idea into our vision, we imagine it, we embellish it, we bring it down into our throat chakra to communicate. And when we do, we bring it to relationship, and we enhance our relationships of all kinds. We end up doing the work more easily by removing the blocks, having fun doing it, that second chakra, and finally coming down to the finished manifested plane. This is a step-by-step process that makes creation ecstasy, but the blocks are what's a pain. So we have tried and true practices for removing the blocks in each chakra that get in the way of your goals of manifestation. So if you have something you want to create this year, learn this step-by-step process and you can use it the rest of your life.